The next speaker is Greg Fragkos. Is responsible for the cyber defense and advisory services at Digital 14. Greg is also the CISO for Expo 2020 in Dubai, which is the world's largest event for 2020 year, and will also occur in 2021. On his vast curriculum, Greg also assisted ENISA as network and information security expert, organized BSides events in Athens and Amsterdam, and helped companies around the world sharing his expertise and ensuring security on multiple sectors such as banking, payments, maritime, defense, and space. Today, Greg is going to launch a challenge to rethink cybersecurity in evolutionary terms. Greg?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Hello to everyone. It is a pleasure to be part of the first Security BSidesPorto virtual conference. I wish it would be possible for us all to be together, but hopefully next year we will manage to do this. But everything is going well, I see, and I hope everyone is having an amazing time. I've seen some very good presentations up to this point. So regarding my presentation, which is more about, it's a little bit more lightweight compared to the technical stuff, but it covers a lot of the, from my technical background, it covers a lot of the technical issues. How do you evolve and how do you manage the risk in the real world? So as the world right now with the pandemic, for example, has taken several steps to protect against this global unprecedented pandemic, I would like to reflect on the initiative that we as cybersecurity professionals need to both consider and act upon, taking under consideration the way cybersecurity and cyber threats actually evolve. Thank you for the introduction, so I don't have to go through this. My name is Greg Fragkos. I hope the Benvinto and Ola, it's the right way to say it. Yeah. So this presentation is both a holistic view of cybersecurity under a cyber lens based on hands-on experience, and at the same time a provocation, a food for thought around our own cybersecurity mindset for each and everyone watching right now. In other words, the presentation is intended in a way to spark a eureka moment to everyone personally in the mindset that they have around security. As we take this journey to reinvent, in a sense, realign or fine-tune the way that we think about security. Let me discuss this a little bit. So I had this slide here. I was trying to decide if I'm going to put it in or not. So the best way to do this is to have a brief introduction around what is cybersecurity culture and illustrate how and in what way mindset is a core element of a cybersecurity culture. For those who are not familiar, cybersecurity culture of organizations refer to the knowledge, beliefs, perceptions, attitudes, assumptions, norms, and values of people regarding cybersecurity and how they manifest in people's behavior with information technology. In other words, cybersecurity culture is about making information security considerations an integral part of employees' job, habits, and conduct, and bending them into their day-to-day actions. And this definition, in a sense, comes from ENISA's cybersecurity culture work, which has been published, and you can find it on the website. However, despite how descriptive this might be as a definition regarding what cybersecurity culture actually is, for the purpose of this presentation, I want you to visualize and place mindset, which is the key keyword in this case, as part of the 3M in cybersecurity culture. Of course, I have here mentality, mindset, and maturity, but I want to focus within the middle layer. mindset is the way we tend to perceive, think, interact, and behave as part of our own environment cybersecurity culture. I use the word environment because there are numerous everyday examples of different environments, which are digital or otherwise, where you are expected to engage your own security mindset, such as for personal tasks. You're using security in everyday life. For example, setting up your own laptop, for example, and handling or storing personal sensitive information in different digital assets that you might have. You are embracing the use of smart technology. You might have, I don't know, Alexa or Google, whatever it's called, the smart personal assistants. So whatever you do, that's the point. You need to build a mindset on what security in the modern terms is, in the evolved terms. While using for third-party devices or trivial tasks, such as when you go to the bank and you need to use a tablet, what kind of information do you put in this tablet? Whose that tablet is? Is it the bank's? You're paying in a restaurant on a point of sales device. Is that actually the device that belongs to this shop, or did someone replace it with something else? So there are so many things around security that we need to build a mindset around it in order to tackle the emerging threats nowadays. All these aforementioned actions have slowly become, over time, part of our everyday lives. And we're all part of the evolution of digital ecosystems. And each one of us plays a different role. So I have here the Red Queen hypothesis, and the Red Queen hypothesis, which is also referred to as the Red Queen effect, is an evolutionary hypothesis which proposes that organisms must constantly adapt, evolve, and proliferate, not merely to gain a reproductive advantage, but also simply to survive while pitted against ever-evolving rival organisms in a continuously changing environment. In Lewis Carroll's sequel of Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, the Red Queen explains to Alice the nature of the land. At the top of the hill, for those who have seen it, the Red Queen begins to run, and Alice begins to chase after her. Alice starts to look very confused by the fact that even though they are running, they seem to be running after each other, they are staying exactly at the same place. So Alice asked the Queen, why is this happening? And the Red Queen responded, now here you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. This particular message is an excellent example on how we should be thinking around the evolution of cybersecurity today. As cyber threats evolve, we need to be in a position to equally evolve. Otherwise, we simply keep running just to stay in the same place. And I hope this is clear enough as a message to the audience. As the threat landscape is constantly changing, shaping itself, altering, in other words, evolving, we need to keep in mind that and build, of course, a relevant mindset that we need to constantly counter and evolve to adequately defend against these evolving threats. In order to do that, we need to start discussing the factors that affect, and in many cases define, our cybersecurity evolution capabilities and perception. In these slides, we can go through a journey of key points where I could go in each one of them in much more detail, but I'll try to keep it as brief as possible for the purpose of the presentation. So first of all, we have business needs. Understanding business needs as we evolve in how we perceive cybersecurity is something that's so crucial, but it is not often taken under consideration as we plan. And we don't see it taken under consideration within the cybersecurity strategy of organizations or the tactics that we're using to defend against threats. We tend to discuss around several examples on how to manage the risks, while we lack in contextualizing the actual business needs and how this should redefine our risk management approach. And I will come back at the end on this. Another factor in the next style is asking difficult questions. And what I mean by that is questions like how we evolve from a static approach to dynamic solutions. Questions like what is currently the management's commitment, including their understanding on cybersecurity? So the leadership in organizations, do they understand it or not? These are very difficult questions. And a lot of people are afraid to ask their management or the leadership if they actually understand cybersecurity from different perspectives. What is the cybersecurity culture across different business units, and especially in relationship between IT and information security? Do they have a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities? How good is the existing different vendor solutions that are being used in organizations? Do they cooperate with each other? Have we measured how well these solutions perform given the context of the organization they are protecting? What are the acceptable security-related key performance indicators? So these are difficult questions that everybody is avoiding to ask when you are facing risks and threats. And of course, there are several other questions related to cybersecurity for all the different verticals within an organization, which that includes even the HR or the legal departments, even the facilities at the end of the day. But again, I could go into these tiles in so much detail, but I'm going to keep it very brief for the sake of the presentations and the time that we have available. Something that definitely the audience cares about is about companies that talk about hiring talents. And in the past few years, hiring talents have been a key focus for many organizations. However, do we really see HR departments assessing, adapting, and redefining their hiring processes in order to be able to shortlist, identify, interview, and eventually hire talents? In my experience, and I'm trying to fix this as much as I can when I have the opportunity, it does not happen as often as we are told to believe. Then we're talking about, and what then brings us to the next point where we are discussing security community, building and supporting strong security community like Security BSides events, CTFs, knowledge sessions, bug bounties, webinars, specialized trainings, allows not only to keep abreast evolving threats, but also counter-evolve to evolving cyber threats by sharing ideas and knowledge. That's the only way to be able to defend against something that we don't know it is coming. All this brings us to the next point. Where do we all of the aforementioned points in order to accept that how does the threat landscape has evolved and will evolve beyond our current capabilities? This is something that will happen anyway, we want it or not. As we said earlier on, using the Red Queen's words, it is a race and we need to keep moving and counter-evolving in everything that is happening. There is no one solution that fits all, obviously, and no one knows everything, as it was mentioned earlier on during the session. This is where I would like to paraphrase a historical saying with the CISO has died, long live the chief cybersecurity officer. And what I mean by that, this is simply to distinguish between the old chief information security officer mindset with the new cybersecurity focused CISO mindset that has very specific responsibilities and understandings in the era of fast evolving cyber threats, where you have to include insider threats, how to communicate both upwards and downwards in an organization, understand current and technical initiatives, even be familiar with cybersecurity financials in a modern world. And then we move on to staying up to date. Stay up to date goes beyond the confines of updating and upgrading systems nowadays. This means knowing what is the latest research and advisories regarding the threats related to the context of the organization you are protecting. Speak and collaborate with universities to get inputs, for example, because this is where the research is happening, and up-to-date state-of-the-art research, in order to answer difficult questions like the ones that we posed earlier on. Use current technology and services which provide modern tools that can be used in different ways. Even Twitter, for those who don't know, can be used as a threat intelligence gathering tool if it is done right. For those who don't have a Twitter account, for example, I would recommend go and create one. But instead of trying to follow celebrities and rock stars, I don't know, what is everybody's cup of tea at the end of the day, try to follow a group of accounts related to information security. Security news, security blogs, renowned security professionals, security researchers, the speakers of this conference, the colleagues in the area, industry, or sector that you are working with. All that will help you build a community, a small community, which it will be more relevant to you. It will create your own network of real-time information input regarding what you care most. And you're gonna be staying up to date with the latest developments in cybersecurity in general, or even interact with all these professionals in real time around the world. Moving along, zero to hero and hero to zero. This particular one refers to the understanding and early planning of what you need to do in order to constantly develop your security career and become the hero of the work you do, which may include a university's degree, certifications, and specialized training, of course. Build the right mindset with strong foundations to steer away from being in a position in the future to have to defend a house of cards instead of having a solid and robust architecture. And this again is a big thing to be discussed in detail as we move along with different stuff that is happening in security nowadays. Now we jump again back to security mindset, which I've already discussed, but we had the opportunity to mention a high level, but allow me at this point to take this opportunity to emphasize that everybody of you should take pride in doing security properly. Be respectful and open-minded and try to share ideas. When you are in a working environment, make sure that you communicate. You don't work in silos. Listen to justified facts. And this is very important when you want to evolve within cybersecurity. Don't just adapt ideas or opinions from people who haven't justified why they're saying something. Remember, of course, that there is no silver bullet when it comes to security, obviously, and always question bold and justified statements. For example, our solution is using AI and machine learning to detect threats. Okay, explain the technology. It's not just a statement. Try to learn more about it. Or I've seen this, and this is again a big debate. Someone said, you don't need a degree, a university degree, to work in security. Yes or no? Certification degrees serve different purposes, but the person who was saying at this point in time was actually selling training sessions. So if you're selling a training session, it shouldn't be coming from you. It should be coming from people who can justify it. I would like to hear the experts on the field trying to justify this. Moving along, we have educate, network, and participate. And this is the only way to stay current in cybersecurity and emerging cyber threats. The field of computer science, and more specifically, anything that is related to computer and information security, has evolved into a massive field of study. And the only way to stay on top of all this is to go on conferences, participate in discussions, and educate yourself further. And I'm not going to discuss this in this case anymore, because I want to give a little bit more time to talk about ethics, because many few people are actually touched upon this subject. Moving on to ethics, which is one of my favorite fields, to be honest, especially when it comes to computer and security. I was personally lucky enough to have a specific module when I was in the university during my software engineering degree that allowed me to discuss and understand ethics and an ethical mindset. As cybersecurity professionals, we have the knowledge and capability to do great good when it comes, especially when it comes to defending and protecting digital ecosystems. The ethics and morals behind your security mindset is what separates you from cyber criminals and people who do harm in order to have personal gain. There are a few people who have been convicted for computer crimes that most of you probably heard of. Unfortunately, our generation has confused the thinking out of the box and ethical hacking with criminal activities, and within that confusion, ex-convicts have seized the opportunity to become known to the general public as the media invest in selling more, basically. When talking about the next convicted malicious hacker, instead of trying to promote all these people, like yourselves, like the speakers that I've watched since the beginning of this conference. We talked about fingerprint scanning. How can we do it? These people did not do it in order because they want to go and rob a bank. They did it because they want to defend that bank. They want to make sure that they ring the bell and the process, the technology, the sensors become better. These are the people that I admire, and I want the media to promote these people. And that's why I have ethics in this matrix that I have here of tiles. These people have dedicated their lives in security while at the same time keeping their moral compacts well aligned with values which focus on how they can protect, defend, and evolve security in this information age. With that said, let's come to the next tile, which is a question for you to ask yourselves. Why are you in security? And I hope up to that point, I gave you I made you spark a few eureka moments in your head. What is the reason for joining this industry? What makes you get up in the morning to do security work? I asked this question myself many times, especially when I started in this field. The answer that I came up with is that I wanted to do good through computer security, through the digital evolution of computers, and contribute to the greater good in with my field of expertise in this case. I might not be a medical doctor, I might not be, I don't know, a fireman to go and save a life, but I can do good through what I'm doing at the moment. And I want to do work in this industry to protect and defend digital ecosystems within different sectors, whatever that is, oil and gas, commercial products, automotive industry. It doesn't matter which it's the field that you guys working with. By doing that, I help organizations to grow, to scale up, which results in protecting actual jobs, people's jobs. So if you're working in the financial sector and you're protecting payment systems, you are protecting a family that has only one credit card to make shopping during the weekend. And if they lose that, they won't be able to make shopping. So you need to see the bigger picture in these situations. When you allow business and organizations to grow by defending them, by protecting them, you are creating more jobs for these opportunities. You are allowing this business to invest in new technologies. And when they take risks in order to further evolve, they are in a position to perceive security as an enabler and not as an obstruction across all business initiatives they are trying to achieve. And I hope this is a clear message. But last but not least, the item in our list is was told, don't scare them. And these are the was told, don't scare them stories that you might end up hearing in different situations during your career. There are two types of people who fall under this category, and unfortunately, you are, and one way or another, face them at some point in your lives. This refers to people who are trying to divert you from bringing any news of concern to management and any executive teams. There is no point of doing this discussion further at this point, but I will leave you with this advice only. Your responsibility when you deal with these such situations is to inform in writing your line manager and the stakeholders within the organization you are working with, while making sure that you have communicated in a clear way, the most clear way possible, the message that you want to say. Not only the problem that you have identified or the risk, but also the business risk in the appropriate language. That takes us, by saying business risk in the appropriate language, that takes us all the way back at the beginning of this slide, where you need to know how to discuss and identify risk according to business needs. And as you evolve, you go again through this cycle of these steps to bring even stronger foundations in an organization, in your everyday evolution of the work that you do. So, moving along, cyber threats in a fast evolving, interconnecting world are not always straightforward. There will be unknown unknowns, as we call them, different types of threat actors, third-party risks that are beyond our control, and we need to accept this. And there is always a bumpy road ahead, full of challenges across all aspects of operations, people, and technology. Security is indeed a game of trust. And one major key takeaway is that each emerging cyber threat affects different industries in completely different way. And because security is indeed a game of trust, we need to be in a position to define security and trust respectively. Most importantly, what is the definition of security today in realistic terms? What is security, what is cyber, and what is cybersecurity? We might take these things for granted, but as we will see in a couple of slides, we don't actually have realistic terms for these words when it comes to measuring risk in a real world scenarios. Do the dictionary terms that you see here cover what we mean by security in the context of protecting digital ecosystems? It's just a definition of the word security in this case. You'll probably have the presentation, so you can go through in this more detail if you want. So, does the ISO 20001 and 17522 definition provide a meaningful definition for you for our purpose of security in a realistic scenario? It's again, it can be debatable. It's still, again, it starts talking about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Maybe the ISO 20000 series, which reiterates the point around confidentiality, integrity, and availability, or maybe the Wikipedia, which indeed provides slightly more context, but still it is not clear what security is in the context of the information age while protecting digital ecosystems. And as we can never have 100% security, how do we define the acceptable level in each case? And that is the core element of what we call today risk management. Yeah. Again, I have this here from 27032 and 17522. So even when I was doing my PhD, for example, I had to discuss security in realistic terms, and more specifically defining it as the state of being or feeling secure by having the ability to avoid being harmed in an irrecoverable level by any risk, danger, or threat when for protecting specific asset. So the evolution of cybersecurity is not just to do one thing, put a password policy in place, do one thing and get done with it. It's a collection of items that, depending on which industry you are operating within and you have identified the specific threats of that industry, you are taking completely different approach and you have completely different risk tolerance. That risk tolerance is an indicator, is an index that you need to move based on hands-on experience. This is a definition that tells you that you can move the dial of the acceptable risk wherever you believe it is most appropriate and acceptable. In other words, modern perception of cybersecurity cannot accept a one solution fits all. And that is what this definition tries to portray. Gives a more dynamic and realistic definition to security given the real world scenarios. More specifically, security is the enabler, and that was mentioned earlier on, for evolving and scaling up in a secure manner while minimizing the risk of being affected at an irrecoverable level, creating jobs, allowing business to grow up and scale up in a secure manner. This is what we do. We enable them. We're not obstructing them. Anyone in 2020 that believes that security is obstructing the business, they haven't understand security, and they should stop doing certifications just for the heck of it, and they should, you know, read the fundamentals. Let's put things a little bit into perspective of what we're trying to protect. And yes, I work at the moment with Expo, and Expo is one of the biggest events that we're going to have. It's going to last for 6 months. We're talking about something like 30 million people we're expecting to join and visit Expo. We're talking about IoT. We're talking about all the new technologies of the world in one place. So this is why I have this example here. This is the International Space Station, a marvel of engineering composed of 3 million lines of code, of software code, right? And on the ground support, there are more than 1.5 million lines of flight software code that runs on 44 computers communicating via 100 data networks, transferring 400,000 signals. It is overall 100 meters long. This is a scientific laboratory in orbit capable of sustaining human lives. And that is one of the keywords here. It's not just a technology fit, it supports human life. So as we are, as currently I am based in Dubai, this is the Burj Khalifa, right? And this is the tallest building in the world, standing at 830 meters tall, which is another kind of marvel of engineering. Like we have different industries in security, this is another marvel of engineering for different reasons. And you can see the comparison between the how big the IIS is compared to this. The reason why I have this here is because I want you to understand in physical measurements how far we have come in technology and the magnitude of what we're trying to protect. This is, of course, a space station of science fiction, at least for now. But this is a good example how complicated and challenging has become over the years to secure and defend our module digital ecosystems by using last decade's mentality and mindset. Evolution of threat pushes us to counter and evolve. I wanted to make a point on this, but I'm conscious of time. I'm going to move on and just mention, because I don't know, we were delayed a little bit. I want to, try to get it on time, save you some time, but because it was delayed earlier on, I didn't start on time. So all that, what I'm trying to say with this presentation is that we have evolved the way that we see security. And I want people who are really passionate about security, and I want to work with these people to understand that this mindset is what built the security champions of tomorrow. People like yourselves that understand what we have moved away from a firefighting scene, a firefighting approach, if you may, when it comes to security, and try to avoid tackling problems all over the place with temporary solutions. And I've seen it every day. People that are willing to see the bigger picture and hopefully now understand much better how to combine standards, requirements, and methodologies. This is very important. Why contain should also be considered as part of NIST cybersecurity framework functions. And I can discuss with you this offline if you want. What does it mean to be an enabler when it comes to security? The value of having an actionable cyber resilience strategy. How third-party tools, even Twitter, as we said earlier on, could be utilized for security purposes. There has been propagating cyber threats from my security networks on Twitter, which I became aware of within seconds, and my threat intelligence feeds, which I'm paid, provided them to me 24 hours later. So clearly, if you build that Twitter network, basically you are in a good hands to get to know things very fast. Recognition for the hard work should not only go to those who break things, the hackers, the ethical hackers, but also to those who fix the issues. So let's take this approach for a second. Our industry has this mentality of praising the person identifying a vulnerability, while it is equally important to recognize the contributions of those taking all the necessary steps to identify the root cause, fix it while not breaking something else, which could have an immediate impact to our business needs that we've discussed earlier on. Last but not least, laws and regulations. Up to now, we have been doing security based only on experience and recommended best practices to meet compliant requirements, if that is necessary, when it's necessary. As we move towards a far more structured framework around cybersecurity, and at least in Europe, ENISA will be, at last, is looking after that. And the laws and regulations will demand proper due diligence. And this is a key word here. Having the opportunity to think about all these aspects of cybersecurity that we discussed today will not only put you in a position of being a security champion, right? I want you to be a security legend. And this is what I would like to see people, the younger generation, our generation, pushing forward this world. By applying the principle of the Red Queen hypothesis in cybersecurity as an opportunity to constantly evolve your understanding, your abilities, your skills, your capabilities, and overall, your security mindset. Thank you so much, and I really hope I managed to light up and spark future discussions and the future security legends across all you attending the presentation.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for your talk. Always good to rethink and to think a little bit more about security problems and security approaches. Thank you also for your tips and suggestions on how to improve security in general.